Hey everybody, welcome back to Fed News, your fake figure wrestling news. And as you can see, I finally added some brands. It's official. It's going to be now titled the Universal Wrestling Federation and the Ultimate Championship Wrestling. Let's get started. So in wrestling news, Nails in talk with UWA Developmental, Butch Reed's in talks, and yes, MVP has signed with UWA Developmental. There was a huge draft. He was not picked up in one of the brands, but he has officially signed. He will be in the developmental brand for future seasons coming up. But breaking news, yes, the UWA has announced they will be creating two brands, UWF and the UCW, with each roster having 50 wrestlers. There will be 7 championships in each, including an NWA US tag team and an NXT tag for the minor show. So those belts are going to stay on that minor brand. Bragging rights are going to be taking place with both brands competing against each other in a best of Series 7, with losing brand having to fire one wrestler for the remainder of the year. There also will be another thing, brand warfare, and there will be all out war, which will be a giant 50-man, entire roster versus entire roster. And the way that's going to work with further details will basically be the remainder of whatever roster is still left. Obviously, if both guys lose one person from each round, then you're going to have 49 and 49. But what will be interesting will be basically a 20-man battle royal that will start, and with elimination of one man from one brand, another man comes in until all 49 people from each brand, or from one brand, have come in, and then literally it's brand war. Whoever is the last brand winning, surviving, remains. But of course, it's also an opportunity for the title for the winner of that. So every man for himself, kind of, but brand warfare nonetheless. So UWF is going to have Raw and SmackDown. SmackDown will be their minor show. UCW will have Nitro and Thunder. Thunder will be the minor show for that brand. There's going to be 12 pay-per-views for each brand with 2 combined events, 3 now. And this new brand debuts after Starrcade, before the pay-per-view becomes a UCW exclusive. So you're going to see it tonight. It won't be Starrcade. It's going to be SummerSlam instead of Starrcade, because that's going to go to UCW from now on. So let's get started with week 1. First, the new rules. The light heavyweight title, the hardcore, and the NXT tag titles are only exclusive to the SmackDown brand. The cruiserweight belts, the hardcore, and the USA tag team are only exclusive to Thunder. Of course, 10 losses in a row equals being fired. And technically it's 10 losses per 1 win. So the idea is if they have 1 win but 11 losses and they get 12 losses and they're done, it's kind of a 1 to 10 ratio kind of thing going on. As always, roll a dice and it's 1, the other one gets 20. And it's a one-on-one match, then boom, a person's injured. Injuries will only happen during one-on-one matches. I thought about doing it for a triple threat, and it could be possible with triple threat. Contract lengths, of course, are hidden from the public. No one knows when the time is up. And AEW, Ring of Honor, and others will be included periodically. That's going to start up as well. Week 1. The Dudleys debut and defeat the New Age Outlaws and the Singh Brothers by pinfall. Psychosis defeats Rick Rude and Kevin Sullivan by pinfall. The main event sees Sylvan defeat Ezekiel Jackson by pinfall. Over to the main show now, as The Fiend defeats Carl Anderson by pinfall. Cesaro defeats Bob Backlund by pinfall. The Nasty Boys defeat the LOD by pinfall. And Shinsuke Nakamura defeats Jey Uso by pinfall. The main event will see Brian Pillman defeat Jerry Lynn by pinfall to become the light heavyweight champion. Over to week 2 now, as Rock and Roll Express defeats Norman Smiley and Reggie by pinfall. Psychosis beats Sylvan and becomes the hardcore champion, and Justin Gabriel defeats Simon Dean to retain his TV title still. Over to Superstars now, as A-Train defeats Larry Sabisco. Simon Diamond defeats Heath Slater. William Regal defeats Braun Breaker. Johnny Gargano versus Chris Condito ends in a time limit draw that was supposed to be for a lightweight number 1 contendership shot. And the Macho Man Randy Savage defeats Marty Jannetty by pinfall. Over week 3 now, as New Age Outlaws defeats Singh Brothers by pinfall. Ezekiel defeats Giant Gonzalez by pinfall, and Psychosis retains his belt over Sylvan. Over to Superstars now, as Heath Slater defeats Simon Diamond. Jey Uso versus Jake Gemma ends in a time limit draw. Titus O'Neil defeats Randy Rose by pinfall. The Fiend and Braun Breaker defeat LOD, and the main event saw Shinsuke Nakamura defeat Cesaro. Now you may notice that the big players aren't here. They're already scheduled for SummerSlam. Week 4, we have Kevin Sullivan and Rick Rude ends in a time limit draw. Ezekiel Jackson defeats Psychosis to become the new hardcore champion. And Don Morocco defeats Justin Gabriel by pinfall to become the new UWA television champion, which will later be called the UCW Championship. Over Superstars now, Heath Slater defeats Simon Diamond. The Fiend and Braun Breaker defeats Mark Janney and Carl Anderson. And Jey Uso defeats Jake Gemini by pinfall. Titus O'Neil will defeat A-Train by pinfall. Main event see Macho Man Randy Savage defeat William Regal by pinfall. The match card looking like Chris Candido versus Johnny Gargano versus the champion Brian Pillman for the light heavyweight title. Cesaro versus Bob Backlund in a submission match. Jey Uso and LOD versus William Regal and Braun Breaker and The Fiend. So a six-man tag match. Jerry Lynn takes on Roddy Piper for the IC title. Lynn, of course, won that from the Battle Bowl, which will be exclusive to UCW going forward as well. The Nasty Boys versus Owen Hart and Yokozuna for the tag titles. Shinsuke Nakamura versus Macho Man Randy Savage for the U.S. title. And the main event sees Cody Rhodes take on the world champion Batista. Will Cody become a two-time champion, or will Batista defend like he did last month in a triple threat match? So, Velocity SummerSlam, Ezekiel defeats Spike Dudley to retain the hardcore title. Rick Rude defeats Kevin Sullivan by pinfall. Spike Dudley and Justin Gabriel end in a time limit draw for the International Championship. And the main event sees Rock and Roll Express defeat the Dudleys by pinfall to retain the USA Tag Team titles. And over to SummerSlam, Brian Pillman defeats Chris Candido and Johnny Gargano by pinfall. Bob Backlund submits Cesaro. Roddy Piper retains over Jerry Lynn in submission. Regal and Breaker and The Fiend defeats Jey Uso and LOD by pinfall. The Nasty Boys defeated Owen Hart and Yokozuna to become the new tag champions. Macho Man Randy Savage defeats Shinsuke Nakamura by pinfall to become the U.S. champion. This, of course, is after it was vacated, so he's the new U.S. champion. And Cody Rhodes defeats Batista by pinfall to become a two-time UWA World Heavyweight Champion. And this obviously is going to going forward is how the belts are going to be displayed a little bit. Obviously, one of the pictures will be cut out very shortly, and new picture will be added in. Going forward, of course, the U.S. title will exclusively stay on UCW. Intercontinental is going to stay over here on the UWF. The light heavyweight is going to stay here, but a cruiserweight will be invented the UCW brand. The TV championship is going over to UCW. The international title is going to stay here. The U.S. tag over at UCW, but an NXT tag belt will be there. And each brand will have a hardcore division, as well as a tag team division, and of course a world champion. So tune in next week as we kick off the UCW show. It's going to basically be pay-per-view and then 4 shows for them, while it will be 4 shows and then pay-per-view at the end. So it's going to double up as far as the video goes. The length will be a little bit longer. And of course, periodically we'll be adding in AEW stuff. I'm still waiting on a few AEW guys to show up that I pre-ordered before I start launching that brand. Quote, sign them. And then I'll probably do a draft with them as well. But it'll be a minor draft that takes place at a different location and included in there somewhere along the way.